Welcome everyone on this wonderful Wednesday to Life by Design, 3 simple steps to transform your life. And I think you all know me. I'm Leonaura Rhodes. So, a question. Do you ever daydream about the life you really want to be living? Or do you ever feel that the years roll by fast and wonder, why do other people achieve their dreams? Why not me? So if you answer yes to either of these questions, you are in the right place today. So what you're going to learn on this call is how to get a clear picture of where you are now, how to create a vision of the life that you want to be living, how to develop a roadmap for change, and then finally, how to optimize the journey so that you can create your dream life faster than you ever thought possible. I am not a patient person. We want to be creating these dreams quickly and effectively, and not making too many mistakes. You are going to make mistakes, but not too many. So I'm just gonna check everyone is on mute. Wonderful. So, this webinar is for you if you are no longer willing to settle for an ordinary, boring, or mediocre life. It's for you if you know that there is more that you could be doing, more that you could be feeling, and more that you could be experiencing and contributing. It's also for you if you know that life is short and precious and you're determined to make the best of yours. And it's also for you if you feel frustrated with yourself that you are not fulfilling your full potential. So if any of these statements is you, then you are in the right place. Who this is not for is people who are not open to change. I've had people come to coaching sometimes and it seems that they really don't want to change, and in which case this webinar is not for you. It's not for you if you're willing to continue blaming other people or circumstances for all of your shortcomings. We need to take some ownership here. It's also not for you if you want a quick fix and if you are not willing to put in some work. Making changes in your life can be simple, but it's going to require some work. Otherwise, you'd already be there. So you probably all know who I am, but just to quickly introduce myself, I am Dr. Leonaura Rhodes. I am originally a physician by training. I trained as a physician in the UK. I'm showing my age here. I started working in the National Health Service 30 years ago, almost to the day. And when I moved to the States, I trained to be a neurotherapist. I'm also a coach and trainer. I lead wellness retreats and corporate trainings, lunch and learns, things like that. I'm an author, medical writer and editor, course creator, and a health advocate. And so my story of my life changed a little bit a couple of years ago. This is a picture of me in the ER during COVID. It was November 2020, and I caught COVID at an outdoor party. I was wearing a mask most of the time, but somebody at the party had COVID, and I caught COVID. I have asthma, ended up with pneumonia, very sick in the ER. I wasn't admitted, and I had a night where I thought I was going to die, and I lay in my bed thinking, about my life and about where I was at, and I asked myself, am I doing what I really want to be doing with my life? And the answer was an unresounding no. I was working at the time as a coach for Tony Robbins, coach and trainer for Tony Robbins, and it was my dream job. And there were many, many things I loved about it. But I realized that it was not my true mission in life. And I kind of made a pact with myself and the universe that if I was given more life, that this would be my mission, to improve the lives of over 1 million people. And my husband always teases me about this. He's like, how many are you up to now? And so, I kind of realized I needed to get back to my roots. I had always wanted to be a doctor since I was about 12. I wanted to be a doctor, and my drive was to make people happier and healthier, and I realized I needed to get back to that and do it in my own way. So Before we go any further, I want to do a quick mindful moment. If you do any work with me, I'll often get you to do a mindful moment. I had a call with a senior leader this morning who was about to fire somebody, and I made him do a mindful moment. So here we go. So what I want you to do is put all of your fingers together, put your hands together like I am, and just gently rub your fingertips together. And close your eyes if you're comfortable. You can keep them open. And just focus for a moment on the feeling as you rub your fingertips together. Now just with your index finger, your pointing finger. And as you rub, notice the feeling of the ridges rubbing against each other. Now bring your fingertips together. And bring the fingertips of your right hand down your fingers to the palm of your left hand and move them around. Notice the ridges, just like on your fingertips, fine ridges. Notice the deep lines on your palm. Notice the temperature and any sensations. And now bring your hands back together and rub them together and shake your arms out. Wonderful. So I mentioned earlier I used to be a neurotherapist, and I would teach the people that I was working with to do mindfulness exercises, and we would see within about 90 seconds that when they did a mindfulness exercise like the one that we just did, you would see a calming in the brainwave activity. It was really cool to watch it. Wonderful. So in order to travel on any journey, there are a few things you need to know. The first thing is where you are starting. And I think, with in the modern world that we live in, with iPhones and things like that, and maps on our phones, we forget that in the olden days when we used to use maps, we needed to know where we were beginning. Because if you were traveling I live in Connecticut, so if I was traveling from Connecticut to New York, I'd need to know I was beginning Connecticut and going to New York, and I'd need maps that covered both of those. Whereas if I was traveling from Connecticut to Santa Fe, then I would need a totally different map. So where are you beginning? Next, you need to know where you are going. And then finally, you'd need to know the mode of transport. I would need a different set of instructions if I was going to drive compared to if I was going to walk, or if I was going to go by boat or plane. So the mode of transport, how you're going to get there, is also super important. So today we're going to talk about 3 steps to design your life. Number 1, where you are now and where you want to get to. Number 2, how to make a rock solid plan for change. And number 3, how to optimize your path for success so that you can get there quickly and effectively and without making too many mistakes along the way. So I love this quote from Carl Sandburg: "Nothing happens unless we first dream." So quick story. This is Lisa. Lisa is a coaching client of mine, and this was a quote that she gave back to me. I realized one day that I had totally lost my sense of identity. I was unhappy and feeling bored and uninspired by life. A feeling that I think many of us can relate to. I've certainly felt that way myself. I didn't know what I wanted, and I didn't know how to change. I was totally stuck. Leonaura helped me discover the woman I had become, and I really liked myself. This allowed me to see a future that excited and inspired me. And quick before and after story. Who doesn't have a before and after story? So Lisa, when I started working with her, was 40 years old, senior sales executive, and recently divorced after a pretty unpleasant marriage and divorce. She was suffering from chronic low-grade stress with life, work, you name it. And she was feeling low in energy and really not enjoying her life at the time we started working together. And she said that she felt unhappy, unhealthy, unfulfilled, and stuck. And when it was her 40th birthday, around her 40th birthday. She had an aha moment, a bit like I did when I had COVID, of I don't want to be living this life anymore. This is not the life that I want to choose to live, which is why she came to coaching. So when we worked together, and we worked together for several months on this, she rediscovered a passion for environmental issues. As a teenager, she'd always been kind of lecturing her friends about, environmental issues. And she rediscovered this passion of herself, which she'd kind of forgotten when she'd got really busy with her job. And she started a side hustle. I thought this was so cool. She wanted to sell heirloom seeds. So seeds that were like as close to nature intended, rather than these kind of, hybrid, highly engineered seeds that often we buy today. So she started like an online business for that. And she decided that she didn't want to give up on having a baby, which was a long-term plan of hers. But, she wasn't currently in a relationship. So she decided to freeze her eggs, and she requested a 6-month sabbatical from her work. And they paid for a month for her, and then it was unpaid, to go to Costa Rica to work on a rainforest project. And also she did a week-long plant medicine retreat where she did ayahuasca and various things like that. And so this was kind of what Lisa and I worked on together. And clearly, at the end of this, and we're still working together today, she is much, much happier and feeling fulfilled and content with her life. Now, you might look at Lisa's story and say, I don't have as big a goal as her. And I just want to reassure you, your vision does not have to include big, audacious goals. It should include things that inspire and energize you, and that will ultimately bring you contentment and peace. Sometimes I work with people and their main goal is, I want to get healthy enough to be able to play with my grandchildren, or, something small like that. But highly significant to them. So step 1, I promised you, where are you now and where do you want to go? So I am going to make you do some work in a second. A quick meme, I stole this off the internet. This is a picture of a butterfly and a policeman having pulled him over and saying, you don't look like you do on the photo. And the purpose of me showing this is to remind you, you have changed. You are not the person that you used to be a year ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, you name it, depending on how old you are. And change is good. You're meant to change. So if you ever worry, I've changed so much, it's okay. You're meant to. But it's also important to not run your life on an old script. And I kind of realized this about myself at one stage, that I was running a script that I had written in my mid-20s, before I got married, before I had children, before I started my own business. So it's really important, before you make any changes, to tap into who you are today. So, quick exercise. I want you to write down, if you got in an elevator and it went up, let's say 10 floors, with a complete stranger, and they said, tell me about yourself, what would you tell them? So write down your 30-second elevator pitch. And I'm going to give you just a minute to do it. So write shorthand. Wonderful. Just turning my timer off. So I want you to now just pop in the chat box whether this exercise, this elevator pitch, was easy for you. So I want you to type in easy, hard, I don't know, confusing. So just tap easy. Wonderful. Anyone else? No. Yeah. Many people find this really hard. You wouldn't believe when I start coaching with people, I ask it in a slightly different way. You wouldn't believe how hard people sometimes find this question, and they'll be umming and ahhing and, oh, I don't really know what you want to say. So it can be a difficult thing to answer. We also have middle, easy, hard, and another answer, it would have been hard a year ago. Yes, absolutely. And sometimes, sometimes we do some work and then this question becomes easier to answer. So next exercise, going straight into this, is called a magic wand. So I want you to imagine for a moment that I'm gifting you a magic wand. And with this magic wand, you can make any changes that you want to make in your life. The first question is, what would you want less of? What would you want less of? Just write down a few things. Next question. What would you want to feel less often? What would you want to feel less often? Next, what do you want more of? With this magic wand, what do you want more of? And with this magic wand, what do you want to feel more often? So I want you to look at what you've written and circle one thing that is a top priority. Like if you could choose just one thing to work on that you've just written down, what would that be? And I'd love some shares in the chat if anybody's willing to share. So what's the one thing, if you could choose, that you would change? Not seeing anything in the chat just yet. So let's move on. So this exercise is a really good way of kind of tapping into what you really want. And it's always fascinating to me. It's less tangible things. It's very rarely that people put in the magic wand. Sometimes they do, but it's very rarely, like I want a new pair of shoes or something like that. It's usually that they want to feel something. So we've got one answer: feeling lost, helpless, confused about life goals less often. Wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing that. So let me ask you a question. What if you could achieve everything you set out to achieve? Now, the problem with us human beings is we are not perfect robots. And so, often, and in fact, for me, I'll share with you on a daily basis, I don't achieve what I set out to achieve. But what if you could? What if these things that you wanted, you could achieve more of? And through coaching, I've learned that you can get much, much closer to that. So the next question, I want you to write this down. What is currently preventing you from being able to achieve these things that you want to achieve, these things that you just wrote down? So write down, What's currently preventing you? What's getting in your way? What's stopping you? Wonderful. And sometimes, in what's preventing you, sometimes it's something practical. I've worked with people, for example, working mothers, where it's like, practically, I cannot get childcare at the moment. That's something that is a real practical problem. But many times it is myself, or it's that I'm feeling stuck and I don't know how to change. So sometimes practical, but more often than not it's about you. So the next question I want you to ponder and write down is, what have been the costs of you not achieving your dreams up until today? What's it cost you up until now? And another question, are you willing to pay this price, these costs, for the rest of your life? And if you are, that is absolutely fine. Sometimes people make conscious decisions. I'm going to keep on living my life this way, and they know the costs, but that maybe the pleasure of of the way they're currently living outweighs the costs. And if that's the case, then fine, carry on, as long as you're aware I'm making a conscious decision here. So step 2, make a rock solid plan for change. And I am all about kind of strategy, and I'm kind of lazy. I want to achieve my goals as quickly and effectively as possible and make as few mistakes as I can. So in order to do that, you need a plan. And I love this quote from Eleanor Roosevelt. It takes as much energy to wish as it does to plan. What a wonderful quote. So there are some stages that go into really good plan development. And, I help people plan sometimes big changes in business, but what I love most of all is helping people come up with a personal plan. How am I personally going to achieve these things that I want to achieve? So a step-by-step plan. The next thing is getting motivated, getting excited, figuring out what lights you up, what's going to make you get out of bed, because it's likely the goals that you have are maybe you're going to require some effort. Otherwise, you'd probably be there already. So what is going to motivate you? Is it going to be, yourself, or is it going to be somebody else that's going to motivate you? So get motivated, get driven, get excited. The next step is, like I said earlier, we human beings are not perfect robots. And sometimes, even though we know that we really, really want to do something, we procrastinate. And usually we procrastinate. It's very interesting psychologically and neurologically. We are associating more pain with doing the thing than we are the pleasure that we would get from doing the thing. And we're also associating a lot of pain of doing the thing, even if the pain is as simple as it's boring, or, I've just had somebody drop out and come back in. Welcome back. So sometimes procrastination is about weighing up pain and pleasure, and we all do it. And so to overcome procrastination, you have to figure out, how do I tip the balance so that my mind will say, I'm going to get more pleasure from doing this thing than I am the pain or the boredom or the hard work of doing it. Sometimes we need to get unblocked. Sometimes we have mental blocks to doing the thing that we really want to do. And sometimes you have to dig around a little bit to figure out what is getting you blocked. The next thing is to create some accountability. Some people, and I would say probably about 25% of people can hold themselves accountable. They are highly internally motivated people. They can do it themselves. They just need to write down a goal, consider it done. But about 75% of people need external accountability. Some people need a little, some people need a lot. Some people need somebody to call them up once a week, once a day, and say, have you done it yet? And sometimes, that accountability is what makes them do the thing. The next thing is to write an action plan. And an action plan needs to be small, achievable steps so that you very quickly start to feel like you're making progress, because the human brain loves to feel like it's making progress. And some of my clients, I had a client earlier on this week who decided she was going to create a reward jar for herself. So she's got a jar. Every time she achieves something, she's feeling really unaccomplished at the moment. And so every time she achieves something, she's going to get a Post-it note. She's going to write it down, no matter how small it is, and she's going to put it in her jar. And at the end of every week, she's going to read back to herself what she wrote down in her jar. Sometimes it's a sticker chart. I've had, 50-year-old men making themselves a sticker chart and buying some shiny silver stars. Because your brain loves to be told you're doing the right thing. Do more of that. And a step that is often overlooked is the review process. So setting yourself times when, if you have this plan, you're going to go back and look at the plan. You're going to ask yourself really honestly, what progress am I making? What's gone well? What isn't going well? And what do I need to change, and what do I learn, so that the plan is evolving and, growing with you. And a plan that works for one person is, may not work for you. So it has to be your, and I call it, personal development plan for exactly that reason. You're a unique human being. You have to find out what works for you. And the review process is super important in figuring out what works for you. So some tips on coming up with a plan. It's really important that you write it down. If you think you don't need to write it down, you can just kind of do it in your head, you're probably fooling with yourself and colluding with yourself. And sit down for at least 20 minutes, no distractions. Your life, your future is really, really important, and it deserves your full attention for at least 20 minutes. When you've come up with a plan, I highly recommend that you edit it and refine it over a few days. It's highly unlikely you're going to come up with the perfect plan the first time you sit down and write it. So write it down, think about it. Think about it when you're in the shower or when you're on a commute, and you'll get ideas that pop into your head. I was on a call with a client earlier on today, and an idea popped into my head that I'd been musing over for a few days for a blog that I'm writing. Something just came up and I was like, oh my God, brilliant idea, and added to the blog that I'd been writing. And promise yourself to be honest. It's your life. Nobody cares about your life as much as you. I've just seen a question pop in. Really great question. How many areas should we work on at a time? And there is research behind this. So we should probably be working on 3, maximum 5 goals at any one time. And remember, the things that we choose as goals are things that we're not already doing. So you don't want to, you might have a goal to, tidy your kitchen every day. That isn't going to be one of your main goals unless that's a real stretch for you. So you're not going to, like, everything isn't a goal. Goals are just the things that are going to require a bit of effort and a bit of planning. So 3 to 5, anything beyond that, you're probably overstretching yourself, and you will kind of water down the effect and probably not do a good job. So that was a great question. Thank you. So what about optimizing your journey? Like I said earlier, I'm a bit lazy, and I think all human beings are. We actually have wired into our nervous system to conserve energy and to do things in the most efficient way possible. So how do we optimize our journey? And this is all about peak performance, and I teach classes in peak performance. I love this stuff. It's really, really fascinating. And there's an art and a science to managing your state. So I want you to think for a moment about, say, a top tennis player. They are somebody who has learned to manage their state and be in a peak performance state when they set foot on the court. What about a surgeon? Let's say like the peak of surgery, this was certainly never where I reached, is neurosurgery. It's like surgeries can take 15 hours. These people need to be in an optimal state, a peak state, for vast amounts of time. One tiny mistake could kill somebody, or maybe even worse, leave them paralyzed or not be able to speak. So they need to be a peak performer in what they do. And there are many people who have mastered peak performance in one area of their life. But you take a tennis player and you ask them to do neurosurgery, they're not going to be very good at neurosurgery. In fact, they're probably going to be awful. And, most neurosurgeons are probably not able to compete, at a high level in tennis. They might be good at tennis, but maybe not to compete at the highest level. So whatever it is that you want to do, for these goals that you are going to set yourself, you need to discover what's your peak state for that. And it's going to be different, a bit like tennis and neurosurgery. Whatever your different goals are, you're going to need to find a different peak state. So you are in a state of being every moment of every day. And what do I mean by that? So it's your physicality. Like, what are you doing with your body? What's your posture like? How are you looking after your body? Clearly, you're going to be able to get into more of a peak state if you're healthy. The next thing is like, what are you focusing on? What are you spending your time doing? A top tennis player is spending hours and hours a day practicing, hitting a ball back and forward, perfecting their serve. So what are you focusing your time on? What do you believe about yourself and your abilities? Do you believe that you can do this thing? Or do you have a lot of beliefs that are holding you back? And lastly, like, what are you saying to yourself? What do you say to yourself to keep yourself motivated, excited, inspired, believing that you can do it? And then there's another piece, which is the environment that you create. What are you doing to create an environment so that you can get into this peak state? What habits are you doing? Who are the people that you are spending time with? And we all have states that are on the negative side, some intensely negative states. I showed you that picture early on of when I had COVID. This was my -10. Like, I could not do anything. I could barely speak when I was in that -10 state. Hopefully you're not experiencing them very often, but we have negative ones, whether it's stress, whether it's I'm a bit sad, or whether it's I'm angry. And we have, low performance states, and we've probably practiced them many, many times. So we've got good at them. I practiced stress for about 15 years. Every single day. I got really, really good at it. I can go to stress just like that. Just like, a top tennis player, if they didn't play for, a year, they could pick it back up. I can pick up stress. And then we have the intensely positive states. I'm in a pretty good state right now. I have practiced this state, and it's my trainer state. I've practiced my trainer state many, many times. I was pretty awful at it at the beginning. I was probably about a +1 when I first started performing, giving talks and doing webinars and stuff. I was pretty terrible at it. But with practice, I identified what that state looked like for me, and I practiced until now, a bit like my switch with stress, I can get into this state whenever I choose. I often say to my coaching clients, I could coach, hopefully I never have to, in a burning building, because it's part of who I am. It's like having like a pack of little superheroes that you can call upon at any time. And if you do your work on your goal in a peak state, you will be so much more successful than if you were in, a negative state on that negative side. So let's finish with a mindful moment. And by the way, we're going to have time for questions at the end, but let's finish with a mindful moment. So I want you to close your eyes if you're comfortable. Keep them open if you like. Close your eyes and take your right hand and place it on your tummy, just above your tummy button. And focus for a moment on your breath. Feel your hand rise and fall as you breathe in and out. Breathe in and out. With the next breath out, blow out all the air from your lungs as if you're blowing up a big balloon. And as you breathe in, let your tummy move out. As you breathe out, your tummy moves in. Breathe in and out. Breathe in and out. And now take your right hand and place it on the area of your heart. And focus once more on your breath. Feel your hand rise and fall as you breathe in and out. And I want you to imagine for a moment yourself a year from today. Today, you made a commitment to making changes in your life. You imagined a future for yourself, which was better than what you're living now. You decided, you committed, and you put in the work. Some days it was hard, but you did the work anyway. And I want you to imagine what your life will be like. What will you be doing every day? What will you be feeling more often? And step into that moment as if it were happening now. And really feel it in your heart, your body, and your mind. And on the count of 3, open your eyes and bring your attention back to the room. 1, 2, 3. Open your eyes and just shake those arms out again. Wonderful. I hope nobody fell asleep. I once did an exercise like that with a group of parents with special needs kids, and it was in person, and there were the special needs kids were with their parents. It was in an area where they provided childcare for the kids. It was in the evening, and this father started snoring really loud in the middle of the meditation, and everybody giggled. It was a very funny moment. So, I have a question for you. What are the consequences of you not achieving your dreams? Like, if you don't make the changes that you want to make, what are the consequences? And write them down. So what will you miss out on? What will be the costs? What will you regret if you don't work towards your dreams? And so I have a question for you. How committed are you? If you were to give yourself a score, 0 to 10, 0 is I'm not committed at all. This is not something that I want. I'm going to put in no effort. To 10 being I am super committed. Where are you now? And anyone want to share in the chat? I'd love some shares here if anybody's willing. So just put a number in the chat So where are you now? How committed are you to making these changes in your life? And if it's low, it's fine. Maybe you haven't come up with what inspires you yet. So we have a 6. Wonderful. I have to say, there's been goals that I've been working on that haven't inspired me too. And we have a 4. Wonderful. And so, the 6s and the 4s, you're getting there. But clearly, that first step of finding out who I am and what I want from life, that's probably where you need to start, because, once you hit on the things, then you start to get inspired and excited. So it's good to know that's probably where you need to be starting. So what level of mastery do you desire? And full confession here, there are many things in my life that I have dabbled at. And I'm showing you karate belts here because this is one of them. For me, I decided when I was in medical school, so I must have been like 20, I don't know, that I wanted to learn karate. And I got to the elevated status of white belt with 2 stripes. So I basically took 2 exams. So I dabbled in karate and gave up long before I was anywhere near mastery. But I had friends who were inspired and continued, and they got to black belt and they started teaching karate to other people. And I am a firm believer in dabbling. In fact, I had a client a couple of years ago, and we were talking about dabbling, and she's like, do you know what? I love dabbling. And she decided she was going to start a website for dabblers, for people who just want to try a bunch of different things and try them out and see if they like anything. I am all for it. But it needs to be a conscious decision. I'm going to dabble at this thing. Fine if that's the case. But if you want to master something, then, it's going to require a different level of commitment. So it's fine. If you're at a white belt with 1 stripe, I'm completely for that as well. So if you are at the beginner level, you have already stepped up and, taken the first class, the white belt with the 1 stripe, this webinar. And I'm going to send you the ebook that goes with this webinar at the end of it. It's got exercises in. I hope you'll find it interesting. So I will send that to you. And like I say, if that's where you're at, perfect. That's amazing. Go for it. If you are at the intermediate level, say you want to get to kind of yellow belt level, you do want to make some changes, you're not quite sure if it's for you, you just want to kind of try it out and go to the next step, then I would highly recommend doing a group coaching program. And if you really want to make progress quickly and you want to get to mastery, you're somebody who wants to get to, black belt level in 6 months, a year, maybe, a couple of years, then I would highly recommend group program plus one-on-one coaching, because that way you can kind of dig into like the personal bit of this, like what is it that will work for me, rather than being slightly generic in a group program. Group programs are great, but it lacks that personal touch. So quickly, who is group coaching for? It's for people who need to be committed to change, because the group is relying on everybody having that kind of, reasonable level of commitment. You must be open to new ways of thinking. The ways of thinking that you have right now, or up until you came on this webinar, have got you where you are today, and they will keep you there or at a similar level if you don't change them. So you must be open to new ways of thinking. And I've had people come to coaching and they just don't want to hear any of it. And you've got to be open to it. You must be willing to take responsibility for your own actions and results. And you must be, you must have some level of determination to succeed. And so I have a group coaching program that leads on from this webinar that's called, no surprise, Life by Design. So it's a 4-week program. I kind of toyed with 6 weeks, 8 weeks, and I decided I want people to make progress really quickly. So it's a 4-week program. I ran it last year. This cohort that's coming up is starting September 19th. What's involved? 4 45-minute group coaching calls on a Monday, 12 p.m. Eastern time, and it's live. I would highly encourage you to come live, and it's also going to be recorded for those who can't. Life gets in the way sometimes. And then there are 4 weekly Q&A sessions following on a Wednesday. And these are 30 minutes. You come to them if you have questions and answers. Really interesting thing, when I've done this before, people often learn more from other people's questions. So, if you don't have a question, come along anyway, because other people might be going through similar things to you. The investment for this program is $597, and it includes 2 coaching calls, one-on-one, and normally I would charge $400 for this. And the idea of these calls is probably one near the beginning and one near the end, so that you can get that personal touch and feel like you're starting to make progress. There are only 8 spaces. I'm doing a live event locally in early September where I'm going to be enrolling other people into the program. So only 8 spaces, because I like to keep this small and intimate, and the people in the program really kind of get to gel with each other and know each other and share the journey and that camaraderie that you get from being on a similar journey to other people. So that's what's involved. Here is the link. The bottom one is and I see, I can't copy it. I'll send it to you afterwards. The bottom one is simpler. So tinyurl.com/lbd-sept2022. And as I say, I'll send it to you afterwards. I meant to copy it and put it in the chat box. So take a look, see if it's right for you. I am one of those coaches that is not hard sell. I believe there is a coach for everyone, and there's a program for everyone. And if it's a good fit, then go for it. This is one of my favorite quotes of all time. Life is a song. Sing it. Life is a game. Play it. Life is a challenge. Meet it. Life is a dream. Realize it. Life is a sacrifice. Offer it. Life is love. Enjoy it. And this is Sai Baba. It always gives me goosebumps, that quote. So, quick recap, and I'm going to stop the recording. We're going to get to questions. Quick recap. In order to design your life so that you will have more abundance of whatever it is you want more of, you need to figure out where you are now, where you want to go. Then, having done that, make a rock solid plan for change. And then step 3, if you're like me, you're a bit lazy and you want to get there as quickly as possible, you need to optimize your path for success. Remember, this was all about peak performance. So, some homework. Continue this work. This isn't a magic wand. I'm really, when I come across the magic wand, I will share it with you. But for now, you have to do the work. So look back at the questions you answered today, and if you have any doubts as to whether the program's right for you, or if you just have some questions for me, please book a discovery call. I love doing these calls. I have a lot of people who come on a discovery call. I help them come up with a plan, and that's it. Relationship over and done with. But it's there if you would like a discovery call. I hope it comes across. I am really passionate about this work. I love it. I love helping people make their life better. So, final quote. You will never feel truly satisfied by work until you are satisfied by life.